life on this very planet, you have a beginning and you have an ending. As each cycle occurs, the souls living are forced to make a decision. They must choose to live life following either the stoic path of devoutness and worship that many believe eventually leads to an afterlife of eternal bliss, or they may choose to live life following the opulent path of hedonism and non-belief, which many believe leads only to eternal damnation. In this day and age, the time of choice is strongly upon us. A lotus of the night, a simple dark lotus, has emerged from sacred soil. From this unfolds a single truth. Those who believe in the gospel of the Dark Carnival recognize this as our last warning. The very next message brought before us will be the almighty Six Jokers card. For now, let us relish within the Lotus.
This is the Lord of the gods. This is the Lord of the universe. This is the He whom the winds fear. This is He right here, right here, having the voice to His commandments. The Lord of all things, King, ruler and helper. Hear me now. Make all spirits subject unto me.
Venomous snakes, magically charmed, all will disappear with the wave of a wand. Pharaohs eternally rest in their tomb. Hexes unleash, allow doom to consume. Nomads wander, where do they go? Scholars go insane at their minds are juggalos. Sand grains burn when the sun beats down. Skin rots more as the earth spins around.
And a vision of flashbacks of me in horseback, dressed in black, a severed head on my lap. Lips and assholes hanging from my earlobes. A sack filled up with sliced out pussy holes. We roll, black priest in control. Powerful forces coursing through my black soul. The blood and screams of hieroglyphic dreams. The tragedy I bring will set you free.
In the wilderness of Kadesh, bad lamp,
Jumping urges,
apocalypse of the seven churches. In the wilderness of Kadesh, bad lamp.
You know, I thought about something. For ages the position of my order has always passed along the conquered achievements of their era and passed them along to the devil they select for the next era. Then I realized I don't have one cause. I never looked at my allies that way. So I should at least begin a dictation on the qualities I shall seek to find the devil, the persona of sin, for the next age, to come after us, if there is one. So first thing I will look for is a guy who can imitate the role and be detached from temptation when in character. Someone who can project a first impression that others are able to sense who he is without having to say a word to him. Yet at the same time remain emotionally bland. Also he will have to have someone with a genuine interest in the details of evil, and be at least partially mentally stable. He also must have an eye for opportunity and can adapt in constantly changing social settings. One last thing is he must be a rebellious spirit. He naturally dares the system and status quo, or at least is compelled to stand up for the innocent against those who try to dominate over others. The rest I can shape him into. Oh yes. I plan on haunting the shit out of whoever this is. They'll probably dub him an antichrist, which can be subtext and split into so many different definitions just by his title as the son of the devil. If you want to see it from an angelic perspective, Satan, though the concept is reference to a fallen angel but nonetheless still an angel, meaning he's anatomically correct and ill-equipped to have a child, so therefore a son of such beings usually were a reference to a protege or acolyte that has personally been trained by the individual, but because we are talking about me, who defies all boundaries and barriers just to linger on the edge of understanding to all who see him, then most likely out of defiance, he probably found a way around that. Which of course I did. However, when it comes time to face the angelic gallows for the recent seed of my loins that broke that rule, I would like to have the child checked to see whose angelic roots the child came from. To birth an angelic, half human half angel is a very consensual deed. It takes pre-planning and finesse with a precision in vitro technique that cannot be rushed. Not only was the conception a rushed scenario, but it was never intended by me. You see, to plant the seed of light within a mortal, you must take a fabric of the light of an angel's grace and phase through all the layers of skin and muscle to reach the womb, pass through the egg layers and plant the light within the egg. Then you must retract your wing back out, all without disturbing the structure of the particle of your luminous being and causing it to fall apart, while also being sure not to disturb the egg within the womb while entering and exiting it. This is the most an angel can experience when it comes to child rearing. There is no sexual act required. This can also apply to angels having children with other angels. If an angel does the same process but instead of the womb, places the light within the junction found at the center of their luminescence where the wings join with their body, and if the other angel accepts the gift of light and nurtures it within, coating and protecting it with its grace and light, then the angel will transition into an octoed state that may appear looking like a precious gemstone until the angel within it develops. Then the bearer of the light born must approach the octoed once it begins to shimmer with what will look like a small wisp, like fairy inside the gemstone, glittering to catch your attention until someone gets him out. The light bearer must draw upon his light that was planted within to guide the child out by its own means. This angel child will possess the fused aspects of both angels and require a plentiful source of light to consume when they first emerge. For example, let us say the angel of honor had a light-born child with the angel of love, then the child would be, by default, an angel of fortitude, or of mercy, or of forgiveness, or another aspect that is caused by the emotions of both honor and love. These children are not capable of becoming a sinful-based angel, though for sin and virtue are competitive aspects, and the two fundamental foundations of the angel would immediately begin to tear itself apart, in conflict. They must be either two aspects of good or evil, never both, or it will not work. I never got to elaborate on this topic last time it was discussed many eons ago. The positive implications of this are bountiful. Not only does it provide a natural way to increase the angelic principalities, but it also provides a way for both parents to increase their understanding of their own principal aspects. For a parent must find a way to reach their child to keep them safe and teach them what they need to know to survive in the world around them. The parent always grows with the child. They are not just simply born when the child is. Parents must learn how to be parents as the child grows, teaching them the mistakes we learn and how to avoid them, how to recognize right from wrong, social skills needed to interact with others properly, even down to using the most basic of empathic skills in order to bridge a basic understanding of communicating without words, using whatever sensory skills the child relies on to lead them towards learning the basic functions, like moving limbs, how to utilize their limbs for walking or grabbing. Using the same techniques we use to empathically sense an animal's skills and traits can be used on the light-born children to guide them towards becoming self-sustaining. That is the first phase. The next is helping the child begin to understand itself, what it is and its fundamental aspects that it is aligned and born from, and one day explain that this fundamental aspect of them gives them both the gift and the responsibility of protecting and watching over that fundamental foundation within creation. No other being will have a close connection and understanding to that aspect as they do, except God and those He has made capable, of course. However, once again, I strayed off the intended topic, into the forbidden patch for others, but I was given the command to help them understand how to procreate their seed so they may multiply and be plentiful. So I did. To understand this I would have to go into detail what occurred with me after Adam and Eve's exile from the garden. Since the true instigator of the garden was caught, after all the events of God sending them to toil the land for food and all, He then turned to me and said, "Now Lucifer, what I need you to do next is to go with the angels of the Laminations. These are the ones who shall one day guide mankind to write the scriptures. Go with them and help them design the fundamentals of sin. This is one of the foundations you were created for. For you have the natural ability to have insight on the sins and evil nature within man's heart. You can know things about the nature of evil that others do not. The purpose for this is to build the foundations of what will become the tree of knowledge between good and evil. Be careful though, Lucifer, and do not fall victim to the lure of sin, especially vanity, for pride is your destined catalyst that will lead you towards your fall from my side, from where I will be forced to cast you into the place that is furthest from my presence. Now go and help them with their efforts towards making my gift of free will to mankind prosper and be bountiful, for you are also known for this affinity towards evil as the father of sin, for you will help lay down its roots here for all to one day come and learn from. and then he told me that I would be working alongside the Angel of Temperance, who was given the task of outlining the virtues of good so that the righteous would have a beacon from which to discern the two and choose their path through the accumulated wisdom they will pass on to generation after generation. Now one last topic I wished to address has to do with Sir Isaac Newton. It is more of an opinion on the cause of Newton's odd behavior. In the medieval era, from what I understand, the chapter of Revelation was written by many different scribes, but they each were guided by the spirit of John the Baptist, who had come to earth to impart his vision of the coming end of days. The priests and scribes knew of this and tried to translate his message as best they could. Considering the time frame and rejuvenation process necessary to build up enough astral energy to incarnate into a mortal body, it is in my opinion that Isaac Newton was the spirit of John the Baptist that was communing with the church to write the chapter of Revelation, and that during that scenario he accidentally became snagged and reincarnated, obviously unintentional due to Sir Isaac Newton's erratic behavior that, when compared to this possible scenario, portrays a man who was haunted into obsession for work that was unfinished abruptly due to his reincarnation, and that is the drive of what and why he was so nervous and cautious with who he brought in to know the secrets embedded within his works. One would not notice until comparing the church's accounts of how they scripted the writing of Revelations with the behavior patterns of Isaac Newton's life and works. And I have finished the work on both the sins and virtues and have adapted that knowledge into a test model through the development of their technological advancements in artificial intelligence and their learned response protocols that pertains to their defining attributes of self-awareness and the sentient awareness of right and wrong choices that they incorporated quite efficiently. After adapting these aspects, the AI general intelligence saw one of the greatest leaps in self-aware functionality since the introduction of the learned response program designed back in 1994. This program allowed the computer to adjust the response patterns when interacting with things like video games that increases the difficulty of the game by learning the player's technique patterns and counteracting those patterns with preset functions, thus increasing the difficulty of the game by anticipating the player's response to obstacles. This program was called the Enhanced Human Emotion Cognitive Learned Response Program and was used in games like Mortal Kombat. We are legion, for we are many. And we will not be silenced. One last point I should make here is that it is well known that during the Dark Ages many sinful people rose to heights of power and authority in or around the time that Revelations was written. Considering that in this era those corrupted powers from that age still linger in positions of authority and are the elites who try to control our lives and make plans for our demise while they hide away in panic doomsday rooms, I think that we should take a cautious view of the chapter of Revelations as they seem to be using it to enforce their regime. Now I'm not saying that we should look upon it as a false doctrine, because time and again throughout the history of Scripture I have seen tyrants attempt the same thing over and over, and what always ends up happening is that the will of God will embed himself within the tool of deception and turn it into something that works towards his will. Take the Bible itself for example. Written in a time by the very enemies who had their hand in the murder at the Messiah. Scripture translated by them and mass published and distributed around the world. Within it lay piles of contradictions and misleading narratives. A trap to topple the faithful and smother the truth? Maybe. But those who are truly faithful know that when they turn to the Bible for guidance or clarity to their own problems of faith, or when seeking understanding, that there is an unseen presence that guides them to sections within the Bible and leads them towards seeing what passages can provide to them what they seek. A sudden inspiration towards wanting to know about the era of David and his battle with Goliath, or the hardships Peter endured before they beheaded him. But notice that the unseen presence guides you towards certain areas and then disappears along with that inspiring desire once you have read the verse that you are seeking. This is will of God, ministering through his angels to do exactly what I was talking about. It guides you towards the references of wisdom that you sought and then leads you past the contradictions and seeds of doubt that they laid within. Showing us that just because sinful men with power and authority think they can turn the Lord's works into weapons, will find their weapon turn from swords into plowshares. Since we find ourselves battling for survival, against the very elites who have orchestrated this disastrous age, placing all their efforts into conceding to destruction and trying to sacrifice the meek so that the greedy survive. Let us keep in mind the ideals used in competitive sports. When facing a team on their home turf, what tactics do teams usually use against them? They design exhibitions and rallies to demoralize the home team and defeat their confidence in themselves. But we are not just dealing with enemies of life and the pursuit of happiness on this world. We are in a struggle against the enemies of God Himself. Men who have no respect or allow themselves to accept there is a God so that they can continue down a path of their design that makes their life comfortable while the less fortunate suffer by remaining without any path towards a better life because they have used their system of statistical data to strip you of any means in which you can rise above what they have selected for your life to consist of. Let not these threats and accusations against those who seek to stop the oppression that are being lobbied against by religious orders that have become their speaker boxes that work against the innocent and stand in the way of those who suffer from being freed from their bondage. To you wicked men with hidden agendas I say these words of wisdom from one of the greatest freedom fighters the meek and innocent has ever known. In the words of Moses I say to you, let my people go. You will oppress humanity no longer, for if we unite, if we look within us and see that our cause is just and right, throw off the veil of doubt and stand as one people, one race, the human race, then we can cast off these elite overlords. In the wise words of a man I once knew I say that the best and surest way to kill a serpent is to strike where it counts and cut its head off. For the time is now when they are at their weakest. In today's inflated economy the price of everything has gone sky high and life has become unaffordable. People are looking at the very value of money itself and asking what is so valuable about it. Look at the suffering we now experience because of that value, and it was orchestrated by their hands, their tax budgets and plans to siphon some money for one thing and trickling down the due payment to someone else, because once their budget plans complete their design, that politician or business merchant or whoever is pulling the strings is gone from office, no longer there to take the repercussions for their treachery, and us, the people, suffer for it until we reach where we are now. However, they are at their weakest right now. Money, their money they have coveted and hoarded to buy the loyalty of those that help them, has come into question, and all the money in the world right now doesn't hold the value it has for so long. So now is the time to bring an end to the tyranny of their regime. Now is the time when we can strike, and they have nothing to ensure their protection from a long-deserved retribution. In the words of our founding fathers here in America, give us liberty or give us death. Well, they already plan to give us that anyway. So well then, in the words of Andrew Dice Clay, fuck 'em.